What's up, guys? This is Trace Raw here, and today we're going to be taking a look. This is actually going to be a new series that I have created. And it's going to be taking a look at Eminem's beefs. Now, as you know, Eminem has been in some beefs over the years, but no one ever really seems to pay attention to the feuds that he's got in aside from other musicians. So what I decided to do was I took a look at the beefs that he was in, Lord Jamar, and decided to look into it more and decided to make a video about it. Now, for this series, this isn't going to be one of those series where I'm biased, even though I am a huge Eminem fan, but, you know, a fair amount of these stories I feel like could use some coverage, and, you know, I think, you know, in some cases they have some good points. Hence, today's video's subject, we're going to be taking a look at Byron Big Naz Williams. So first, let me give you guys a quick introduction. Byron Williams, aka Big Naz, was Eminem's former bodyguard and was with him throughout the majority of the Slim Shady LP and went on the road with him on the Slim Shady tour in Europe as well as the Warped tour in '99. They had first gotten into contact when a mutual contact of Eminem and Naz reached out to him and asked if he would be interested in working with Eminem. So according to Naz, he wasn't initially interested because he was kind of over the bodyguard work and had been settled into a 9 to 5 at GM and had a wife and son at home. But he was interested in the music industry and actually had a group called the Wad Squad that he was trying to get off the ground. So he took that as a opportunity that he wanted to make it in the music industry and build relationships and to network. So after a year with Eminem, they had cut ties, and according to Big Naz, Paul and Eminem had canceled a check that was issued to Big Naz that had cleared about a month prior to that. And so that influenced Big Naz to release the book Shady Business. And after Big Naz released this book, Shady Business, Eminem and Paul came to him and said, "Hey, look, we don't want this book published. We're going to offer you $20,000 to not release this book." In which Naz replied and said that would be a possibility if you could add another zero to it, so $200,000. And that was when they decided that they weren't going to do it. They didn't even want to negotiate up from the $20,000. They were just stuck with. They were just stuck with the original amount, which was the $20,000, which in retrospect turned out to be a good decision for Big Naz because, according to him, he was able to make that money relatively quickly. I'm not sure how many books he sold in total, but apparently it was a pretty hefty amount that he ended up selling. So that was a pretty good call by him. So after they made the book, Naz has been trying to get in contact with Paul and Em over the years and hasn't had no success in doing so. So that is essentially who Byron Williams is in the introduction. So like I said before, I was a big Eminem fan. You know, growing up, I would pretty much try to get my hands on anything Eminem related that I could. You know, whether that be documentaries, interviews, you know, and I was pretty disappointed to find out that, you know, aside from, you know, one autobiography and, you know, the interviews that he did, there really isn't, not even a real legitimate documentary that has Eminem in it. So I was pretty disappointed in that, so I was always looking for that fix. So I saw the documentary called Eminem, a.k.a. It's a documentary, you can look it up. It's probably his most legitimate documentary that he's recorded. It was released in 2004. It's not an official documentary. It doesn't have Eminem on it, but it has a bunch of his family members on it. as well as, local Detroit DJs are on it too. And I had first seen Big Nas on there where he discussed a situation that happened when he was with him on the Slim Shady tour in '99. He was performing in San Francisco, and an incident happened where a heckler was heckling at him, and Eminem decided to jump the crowd and with a punch, but he ended up punching the wrong guy, and so that resulted in an altercation between Eminem's entourage and the crowd. So that was pretty crazy to see. So that's how I initially got introduced to him. It wasn't until literally years later that I came across an interview on YouTube. The interview was was about Big Nas. It was a 2-hour long interview, and I devoured that interview relatively quickly and was hooked from beginning to end. And when I found out that there was a book called Shady Business, I had to try to get it. Thankfully it was available on Audible, so I was able to get it. I didn't have to buy the physical copy or anything like that. So, and yeah, I was surprised that I hadn't heard about it for so long. So this isn't going to be a book review on the book Shady Business. This is going to be a small section of it because obviously it's the book. I mean, that's why we're here essentially. But I mean, this video is going to be mostly my opinions on what I agree with him, things that I don't agree with him, and etc. So what I recommend this book, well, the main criticism that people have with it is, oh, this is just a disgruntled bodyguard that is looking for a payday, which in my opinion, I feel like that's a pretty shallow criticism, because you could say that with, if you have an idol and, someone has anything negative to say about him, you can say, oh, he's just making that up, he's just, disgruntled, he's, she's just trying to get a payday, blah, 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 So that I always keep in mind. I always try to give people a fair shot. Even someone who I love is Eminem. If you have something negative to say about him, I'm going to hear you out, especially if you've known him and you have a relationship with him. I'm going to take that. But I would recommend the book just because there's a lot of insider stories that you literally won't hear anywhere else. I mean, you're not going to hear about the Death Row Records incident that took place between Eminem and, Suge Knight and all that, as well as one particular uncomfortable story that I don't really want to get into, but let's just say apparently the song Guilty Conscious, where Eminem says, she's 15, look at her bush, does it have hair? Yeah, so I'll let you read between the lines on that one. So yeah, for that I would recommend the book, especially since there's, like I said, a pretty lack of, aside from music, no documentary. So I think that, you might as well just give it a shot if you're a fan. Alright, so this is the part of the video where I talk about the disagreements from reading the book, from seeing the interviews, the disagreements in which I feel like I don't really agree or have questions on negatively about Byron and his story. So let's get into it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the Bulletproof Vest situation. So not to spoil, but this was around the time they were dealing with Death Row, and a situation came up where Big Nas felt like it was unsafe and that they needed to get some bulletproof vest. So with Eminem, they were in California recording at the time. So they were able to find a vest for Eminem because he's a small guy. And according to Nas, it was difficult to find a vest that was fit for him because he was a bigger guy. And he said, oh, well, the only vest that is available is in Detroit. So I think that that's kind of BS personally. Now, am I going to sit here and say that it was because he was scared? I don't know if he was scared. I think more than anything, it was a situation to where he just wanted to, you know, maybe spend some time with his kids. And so I don't think I would say he was running from the situation, but I also don't buy the fact that, you know, the only place that you can get a bulletproof vest in your size is literally over 5,000 miles away. So that's the first thing that I had problems with. And, you know, this is probably the incident where Eminem and Nas got into it, because Eminem also said at the time, he was like, you know, I feel like you're running from this situation. And so that caused a rift between the two parties. So going into my next criticism that I have written down here is the pay. So this is the big thing that, you know, is the narrative that, you know, he pushes throughout his book, is that he felt like he was being underpaid while he was employed with Eminem and Paul Rosenberg. So I disagree with this, because it would be one thing if he was only doing the bodyguard work. But he says in his book that he was essentially with him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it wasn't like, you know, Eminem had a public event, you know, he was doing a contract signing or something, and, you know, that was the only time Nas was there. I mean, I guess he did have, you know, certain off days and vacation days, but, you know, he was with him 24/7. So when you're with someone 24/7, I mean, I get he's a celebrity, but, I mean, I would like to think that there are also moments where you're with him and you guys aren't really doing much, so you're kind of getting paid for not doing anything. So, you know, it's my opinion that I think that when you have downtime and you're getting paid, that I think that kind of balances each other out. And, you know, that was his thing, because I guess on the Warped Tour he was talking to some of the acts that were performing there. You know, they said, oh, well, we haven't sold a tenth of as many records as you guys have, but yeah, we're, you know, the security guys were making more money than him. But I think that, you know, like I said, I think that when you have, you know, days where you have downtime and you're still getting paid, that kind of, in my opinion, that kind of balances itself out. So the third thing that I kind of took issue with is how he left. So, you know, the day that he left, he called, you know, Paul, Eminem's manager, and said, you know, I can't be a part of this anymore. You know, I quit, basically. And, you know, Paul said, well, you know, why are you bringing this up when you're scheduled to be in the Dr. Dre music video in a week or however long it was? And so essentially he burned a bridge. Now, they say that you're not supposed to burn bridges, right? But, you know, if you're working towards your career, you know, whatever career that you want to be a part of, and, you know, you're working, in the meantime, you're working a minimum wage job, and, you know, you eventually get the job that you've been working for, it's pretty easy to say, when you do get that job, to say, okay, I'll quit this minimum wage job without giving my 2 weeks notice. But the thing that's different here is that, you know, Big Nas is saying that he wants to be a part of the music industry, and so and he goes and burns a bridge with the biggest artist. And, you know, literally everyone who's been trying to break into the music industry at that time would have killed for that relationship, and he goes and, you know, basically burns the bridge. And it was petty. Does that justify, you know, them canceling checks? It doesn't justify it, but when I heard that, it kind of made me feel a little bit less upset, because I think that was a situation where both parties were, you know, both being petty. So, yeah. So going on to my agreements and, you know, the things that, you know, Big Nas did that I kind of, you know, am in favor of is number one, just going back to what I was saying about, the whole, oh, he's only out for money, he's only out for a cheap payday, this and that. And, from reading the book, I don't really think that that's the case. And, this isn't an example that I want to try to illustrate my point on, but, it is what it is. So, if you ever seen the Leaving Neverland documentary, the thing that sticks out to me the most about that documentary is how they, the family, not just the kids, but literally the entire family, they went on all these vacations, they did all this stuff, and, they lived a life that is unfathomable to like 99% of the population. And so when you live a life that's, star-struck, I guess is the word for it, like, I don't think you can just, go on with your life and just live a normal life. So that's why I think that they kind of did that, because they just couldn't deal with, just being a regular person. So, and with Nas, I never really got that he was really caught up in the celebrity thing, because there was an instance that he talks about how Eminem would have all these women fly out with him, and he would have them in first class eating, the expensive airplane food and all that, and, like, people like, I guess, even Proof and, him, they couldn't even get, like, a seat in coach. So, that's why I think he was able to, be without the famous lifestyle, but that doesn't mean that he was still, upset. I mean, of course, he probably still had fun memories, doing that, but hopefully you understand where I'm coming from with that. And, the second thing that I like to say that is offensive Nas is that if you're an Eminem fan, I think you do have, even if you don't agree with this guy at all, you do have to take into account that, he did take care of Eminem. It sounds like when he did do his job, like, I'm not saying that like he didn't do his job, like, oh, you barely did your job, but when he was employed with Eminem, he did a good job. You didn't really hear of a situation where, his safety was in danger. And, I mean, just look at the situation that happened like a few years ago where a dude breaks into Eminem's house and literally almost kills him. He has to say, yell out to his security guards, like, what's going on. So I didn't really hear a situation happen with Nas with that. Okay, so getting into my third and final point, so I do agree that there should be a movie. And an interesting thing that I heard Nas said, I don't know if it's true or not, but I guess when 8 Mile originally came, when 8 Mile originally came out, it was supposed to be based around the events of Shady Business. So, I mean, that would for sure be interesting. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I think that it's a possibility that if you did the movie without Eminem's involvement, it could work, but you would have to get like a big movie production in order to get it to work, which I don't think none of them are going to take the risk to do it. So at that point, you're looking at a low budget, which, I mean, if they do that, it's going to be fucking trash, probably. So, I mean, regardless, hopefully we'll see another Eminem biopic or something soon. Alright, so in conclusion, I'd like to say that as an Eminem fan, and have been for, a lot of years, I think the one thing that I've noticed is I feel like Eminem is one of those guys to where, if you have an issue with him once, then in his mind, you're pretty much dead to him. So, and you know, to demonstrate that example further, I've read Eminem's mother's book recently, which, you know, I'll do a video on her, I'm sure, but you know, once Eminem, you know, she says that once Eminem found out that she was suing him, you know, he called her, said, oh, you know, launched a bunch of obscenities towards her, and said, never again do I want to talk to you. And I guess that's been true according to her. I mean, even when he put you know, the Headlights record out, you know, to my knowledge, they're still not really on speaking terms. So, you know, I mean, all I can say is hopefully one day Eminem can get together with Nas and they can, you know, just talk about memories, laugh, and, you know, maybe collaborate on the movie, which would be awesome. You know, and I think other than Benzino, I think, you know, fuck that guy pretty much. Like, he tried to assassinate his character. So, you know, with that being said, you know, hopefully we will see Shady Business in the theaters eventually. And I'd like to tell you guys thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.